you get sufficient sunlight, especially in the morning and during the daytime. Making sure at nighttime, you set a time to get, your 7, 8 hours of sleep. Making sure you have a quality place for solitude, for rest. Making sure you have at least 1 or 2 people in your life that you can call the loved one, that you can have as your support system. Making sure you have, good self-love practices, good self-improvement and self-care activities that you do. Making sure you have good meditation practices that, serve you. Making sure you're exercising. Making sure that you get some fresh air, get some nature. Making sure that you have some form of passion, creativity, and purpose in your life that can also be good. Making sure, you learn new things. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. Welcome to the channel of the Nature King. My name is Vajon Ingram, and I'm here to talk about the nervous system and the brain and controlling that to be able to, manage anger, manage emotions, manage stress, and be able to control, these different outbreaks and these different alternate states that we as humans can exhibit. So we understand the basics of the brain, most of us. We understand the basics of the nervous system, most of us. But many of us don't know that many things that we do in our lives, many reactions, many operations in the human body and the human mind and our universal consciousness is also through the nervous system. Now, the nervous system is comprised of, our senses, as well as, all these different nerves that run in throughout the body. It basically looks like spines, interconnecting webs or systems, whatever you decide to call it. Then you also have the brain, which is the major part of the nervous system. Now we know our body is electric. The nervous system, of course, runs off of electricity. The brain runs off of electricity because the brain is our powerhouse. Like how the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, our brain is essentially outside of our cells, the powerhouse of our body and everything that functions in our body. So if you really care about yourself, you will take care of your brain. You can take care of your brain through many health practices, such as, eating the right foods, getting the right amount of sleep, making sure you're hydrated, making sure you're getting some nature, making sure you're getting in some different meditation practices or some self-help practices, making sure, of course, you're learning and you're educating yourself and you're getting the appropriate rest, and you're not getting too much stimulation or not too little stimulation. So now tackling into basically the basis of the nervous system, the basic of the brain. So the basic of the brain and our nervous system is to detect external stimuli. Stimuli is any object that interacts with our body. So that can be that can be light, that can be sound, that can be smell, that can be anything that our bodies can detect and perceive it as certain things. So we know when all of these supposed light and sound, it doesn't just come into the brain and the brain just willingly knows it. It has to be processed, it has to be interpreted, then it has to be perceived in a certain way. So all the light in the universe is essentially based on the perceptions of our brain. So technically, when you look at a green tree outside, technically the tree may not be green. Now I know this may be hard to comprehend, but basically, I'm not going to go too deep into it. Basically, when I say the tree can be green, essentially is what I mean is that colors aren't essentially the same and existent in the universe beyond the human perception. So when our eyes detect these light waves or these light stimuli and these photons, these chemicals, whatever you want to call it, it goes into our eyes. Then our eyes has 2 forms of sensors, black and white sensors, and then it has color sensors, what we know as the rods and cones, and they call it that because they're literally shaped that way. And then our eyes interpret those light waves, and then it goes on to the optic nerve that goes to the occipital lobe back into the brain, and then the brain processes that information and says, oh, it's green. And then also, not only that, it does that with color, it also does that with shapes, sizes, textures, and depth. So our eyes pick up, the depth perception, like how far the tree is away, or in size, is the tree big, is the tree small, how does the tree shape, is it a normal shaped tree, what type of tree is this, the texture of the tree you can pick up, and also movement and so many other different types of forms and different aspects that our eyes pick up. And then of course, how I did with the eyes, our ears the same way, our mouths, our noses, our skin, all of it reacts the same way. It picks up the stimuli. So that's basically the basis of how the nervous system and the brain works. Then the brain controls a lot of our body systems. Our brain takes up a lot of energy. Our brain takes up a lot of oxygen. Our brain takes up a lot of nutrients in the body so that it can be able to function. Because you have your reptilian brain, which is basically your brain stem, your hippocampus, those type of things. Those type of things are usually involved with memory, with breathing, heart rate, and performing like vital functions and so-called involuntary functions. Then it also helps with voluntary function like movement, motor skills, and like vital survival skills, so forth. Then you have your forebrain, which is part of your frontal lobe. It's like a part of like emotions, planning, decision making, so forth and that. Then you have your cerebral cortex, which is associated with language, learning, intelligence, information, those type of skills. Then you have your temporal lobe, which is more with like hearing and sound and speech and those type of things. So that's just the basis of how the brain operates and the nervous system operates. But if you want to live optimally, you have to find ways that can regulate your brain so that it can perform optimally. And great ways to make sure your nervous system and brain is optimal fully is by the proper nutrition, meditation, and having different regimens that improves how these things operate and how these things operate in the world. Now, many people, you see them with a lot of mental issues, and mental issues isn't necessarily a label or a stigma. It's just basically saying that your neurochemistry is off as well as your biochemistry is off. And also certain levels of your brain are too sensitive or too overreactive, or it's too much blood flow to a certain area, or it's too little blood flow to a certain area, or you may have certain neurons that are actually been damaged, or certain brain matter that actually been eroded or damaged that cause these certain mental issues. So the people you see with the mental issues, the people who you see they're always like lashing out, they're always angry, or they're always depressed, they're always anxious. All of these things are influenced by the brain and nervous system. So if your nervous system is out of whack, your brain is out of whack because of the stuff I mentioned earlier, you're going to operate in these things. And personality and genetics also plays a role in how you operate. Because sometimes even with a healthy brain and a healthy nervous system, if a person brain type or personality type is naturally sensitive or naturally so-called they always need stimulation, then if you have those type of personality types and brain types along with the damage and stuff like that, and these damages could happen with like birth defects, with genetics, because of food, because of environment, because of experiences, and also because of like substances like alcohol, drugs, and these sort of things. Most people hear drugs that they usually associate it with smoking, and smoking doesn't only damage your heart or your lungs, it also damages your kidney, it damages your digestive tract, and it damages, of course, the main thing of all, your brain and your nervous system. The same with alcohol. When you hear alcohol is usually something that essentially slows down your body function, slows down your performance, and alters your states of consciousness, allowing you to feel more relaxed, allowing you to feel more chill. While most drugs are usually stimulants and non-antidepressants. And I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a medical doctor. So whenever you try to implement these certain things, make sure you do the research and make sure you do the discernment that you need to do to implement these practices, because I don't want you going out into the world and trying every single little thing you hear online, because I know some of these so-called holistic health people tell you to do certain things, but I'm backing up the information by science, and I've done the research, but I want you to do the research about your body and your health, because I usually talk things from a general point of view. Sometimes I'll be specific and sometimes I'll do different perspectives, but do what's best for your body, your brain, and you can also seek more help and guidance if you need to. But back to what I'm talking about. So with with like the stimulants of course increase your heart rate, increase your levels of function. You're usually more alert. But this is done in an excessive way, so that's why people, when it comes to like sugar, for example, sugar is horrible for your brain and nervous system. And when I say sugar, I mean like the polysaccharide sugar, the dash saccharide sugar, the dextrose type of sugars, which is basically all those go into like the white bleach sugar, the processed sugars, table sugars, all of that stuff. The best sugars for your body can be a small amount of caffeine, like you get from a coffee bean or something like that, or fruits and vegetables are great sources of not so quote unquote healthy sugar, natural sugar. And of course, you still want to take those in good proportion. Fruits that are high in sugar would be, I know a lot of berries are high in sugar content. Like melons could be high in sugar content, but if you know your history in your body, you want to make sure you even with the natural sugars that you take the right proportion you need. But when I say natural sugars and these poly sugars, the difference basically essentially what it is the like these mono sugars and these natural sugars can easily be digested by the body, and when it's distributed and assimilated into the body, it goes to the right cells that it needs to go, and it's usually used in the body in the way it should be used. But these other sugars usually aren't really absorbed and assimilated right by the body, and sometimes get stored, and it can increase the function of the pancreas, and the brain and the thyroid usually would boost the metabolism and boost the levels of glucose. Hence, this process over and over and over can lead to like weight gain and diabetes and all these different stuff. So natural sugar is always the best way to go, and of course in moderation amounts. That will be best for your brain health and your nervous system health. And also not eating too much quote unquote saturated fats. Too much of it is not good. Eating too much of processed food, any processed food, especially processed meats, and too much carbs as well because of the components of the carbs. So it's like basically you just want to have a moderation with everything. Now, of course, unsaturated fats, healthy fats, you can find in many things. A good moderation is always good. A good moderation of, proteins, carbs, lentils, beans, whatever, nuts, seeds, fruits, whatever is in your diet. A good moderation is always good for your good brain and function and health. I have in my new book and on my website and all of my platforms, you can see some great food options that you can use in your body for your mind, your brain, and your nervous system health. And also limiting, do not take alcohol and consuming drugs, and even the idea of cannabis. Cannabis has some medicinal effects, but you want to take the cannabis in moderation as well, because the cannabis can lead to a lot of mental disorders like psychosis, hallucinations. It can build up high levels of tolerance. So many effects. It can lead to certain cancers, certain diseases as well. And it can also make you more sluggish, make you lazy, affect a lot of vital brain functions. A lot of your memory as well can be affected by cannabis. So I would say every now and then is okay. Every now and then is good. But I would say eradicate it completely. But you can take it, of course, in small amounts. And when you take these essential drugs or whatever you call it, make sure, it's more natural. Like the natural cannabis grown in moderation is way much better than the cannabis you just buy from some dealer around the corner or from some store, and you're doing it every weekend. And every day is just horrible. I wouldn't suggest anyone doing it. But I'm just giving you some good tools and good tips for your brain and your nervous system health. And your nervous system and your brain is so very important also with handling stress, emotions, fight or flight response. So fight or flight response is basically our natural way in the world for survival. So if you see a dog chasing you, you will have a release of adrenaline, a release of cortisol, and other neuromodulators and neurochemicals that also helps you to say, hey, I need to run, or hey, I need to fight. But a lot of people are usually in that state when they don't need to be in that state. For example, if they have a small inconvenience, or if they have a certain stressor in their life, it's like they go in fight or flight mode, and they start either going crazy, lashing out, they start yelling, they start cussing, they start fussing, they start going crazy. And some people even start fighting, throwing things around. Their eyes are bald because their body is like in a hyper alert state. And this is because their nervous system is out of whack, their brain is out of whack, and then their personality type may not be making the situation even better. And also when it comes, and that ties to emotions, some people that they're easily triggered, easily depressed, easily anxious. All of these things can be affected by the basis of everything, which is the brain, which is the nervous system. And ways that you can help, change your patterns is, of course, seeking more help. But I would say, change your diet, like quit the substances. And anyone who is recovering, or anyone who has an addiction, I recommend you gradually build yourself out of it and seek, someone who can support you step by step, on a personal level, because you don't want the withdrawal systems. But overall, eliminating the drugs, eliminating the alcohol, eliminating the processed foods, eliminating the sugars. And I know it's a lot of food deserts, and I know finances play a role. Finances and location plays a role in why we eat so poorly. Sometimes I've been eating poorly, and I did notice it affected not only my emotional regulation, but also my thought processes, my level of consciousness, my rest, my thinking pattern. It affected all of that. So I know the experiences, but try to eliminate, these foods that essentially aren't good for you, the sweets, all the sugars, the drugs, the alcohol. Try to incorporate, a lot of nature. Make sure you get sufficient sunlight, especially in the morning and during the daytime. Making sure at nighttime, you set a time to get, your 7-8 hours of sleep. Making sure you have a quality place for solitude, for rest. Making sure you have at least one or two people in your life that you can call the loved one, that you can have as your support system. Making sure you have, good self-love practices, good self-improvement and self-care activities that you do. Making sure you have good meditation practices that, serve you. Making sure you're exercising. Making sure that you get some fresh air, get some nature. Making sure that you have some form of passion, creativity, and purpose in your life that can also be good. Making sure, you learn new things, and so many other practices that you can do in those different realms that I recommend that you try to, optimize and heal your nervous system and heal your brain. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Peace and love. Guys, thank you for tapping in with the Nature King. We are everything nature, everything health, everything wellness, everything spirituality, everything science, math, knowledge, wisdom, education, elevation, vision, business, success, growth, wealth. We are into all of these aspects, and we encourage you guys to continue to tap in with us, continue tapping with me, the Nature King, and continue to tap in with all my social platforms. We can get you tuned in. I have tons of books here. I Am a World of Fruit. Some great books you guys should get a hand of. I also wrote these books as well. Have my e-commerce platform here. You can just use it on your laptop, on your phone, whatever. Get access to hundreds of wellness products. I have crystals up there. I have books up there. I have aromatherapy. I have lights. I have anything you need in the health and wellness category. Continue to tap in with Nature King. Continue to like, subscribe, share all of my videos. Put a lot of work in these videos to get you guys not only the knowledge, but the wisdom and the education to not only better your health, but better your mind, better your body, and better your spirit.